Reading from the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, Book 1, Chapter 7, Text 1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Śrī Parīkṣit uvāca. Itthaṁ sa-parivārasya. Mātas tasyārti-rodanaiḥ. brahmāṇḍaṁ vyāpya sañjāto. mahotpāta-cayaḥ kṣaṇāt. Śrī Parīkṣit said, "Dear Mother, as the sound of Krishna's lamenting with his family members filled the universe, a series of terrible omens quickly ensued. In the 7th chapter, Brahma relieves Sri Krishna of his bewilderment, and Krishna delights Narada by describing the supreme position of the gopis. As the Yadus are running towards Krishna's palace, bad omens appeared in the sky, such as meteors and lightning without rain. Omens Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Unmalatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadhamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, greetings from the Super Soul Farm in upstate New York. So we're now on the last chapter of the first division, the story of Sri Narada looking for the topmost recipient of Krishna's mercy. It's interesting that the definition of sadhana is using your senses to get bhava. So it's so important to have the proper goal. And one of the purposes of these books is to give one the proper goal. It's like the body is like a bow, the mind is like an arrow, and your goal is the target. If you don't have the target, then you're not using your body and mind in devotion in the right way. So it's so important. And that's why we have to hear this, and we have to become inspired. And that's what Shraddha is. Shraddha is, I want the goal. Shraddha is, I want the goal. The goal is good. And that moves you there from the beginning of faith, which is an appreciation of the goal, to an artha-nivritti, giving up things that don't have value to the goal. That's as our faith deepens. It's all based on the objective or the goal. And if you lose faith in the objective of the goal, you lose faith in the practices and the process. And therefore, people who leave, they lose faith in the goal because they forget the experience that gave them confidence in the goal. And that's the nature of experience. When we distance ourselves from it, we forget it in certain ways, or it recedes, at least spiritual goals. So Narada had that arrow, I'm looking for the topmost recipient of Krishna's mercy. And he winds up in Dwarka. He was pointed to Uddhava, who indicated that the gopis were the topmost recipient of Krishna's mercy. And then that discussion ensued whether or not they were actually recipients of Krishna's mercy because they were suffering so much. The suffering indicated, in one sense, that they were the objects of Krishna's mercy because the suffering indicated a high degree of devotion, which is the goal. But on the other hand, the suffering didn't look like kindness or undeserved mercy at all. So this whole discussion begins, which again is focusing on the goal of this book, which is tasyārti-rodanaiḥ, the supreme top level of Krishna's mercy. And it's just weaving its way towards that goal. And that's really what makes a good class, a good book, is a theme, the one idea that connects everything else, even though apparently unrelated. And then supporting it from different angles to sharpen our understanding, to deepen our conviction of it. And that's what's happening here. And just to go a little bit back in that discussion, Padmavati didn't think that she was criticizing the residents of Vrindavan because the cows were dying, and she was saying the cows are being mistreated. But actually, they were dying from separation. And then Krishna when he heard that, he kind of broke down about that and then looked at Balaram, and Balaram said, why just the cows? Every living entity, all the animals and the trees, the kadamba trees, all the various animals, everything is suffering. In fact, I fear that if you don't come back, they'll die. And their lamentation, their separation from you is so deep that you're their life, and without you, they don't want their life. Govinda Varahaina me. In your absence, the whole world becomes vacant. So this is somehow or other on a spiritual platform, because it's all connected to Bhav, so it's beyond duality in that way. But at least on the external sense, they don't want any life. You are my life. Without you, there's no life. So Balaram, Krishna looks at him, and Balaram begins to cry. And then Krishna, kind of understanding why Balaram's crying, because he's lamenting for the residents of Vrindavan who are dying in the separation. I think the last class, Wednesday, many of you weren't there, I quoted from Vyāpya Kuṣmanjali by Raghunath Das Goswami. Vyāpya Kuṣmanjali is a bouquet of lamentations. It's the mood of separation. So, and there's a verse there that Rati Manjari, or it's a verse that parallels, it tries to encapsulate Rati Manjari's feelings of separation from Sri Radha with the medicine of the red lac of your lotus feet. Please cure this servant of yours who is near dead by the snake bite of separation from you. So Krishna collapses and starts crying, and because when there's intense love, your whole happiness, this is what Jiva Goswami describes love as, when your happiness is the happiness of another. And if your happiness is the happiness of another, also your misery will be the misery of another. Paradukkha dukhi, you'll suffer for the suffering of others. So in Krishna, the life of the residents of Dwarka is on the ground wailing and crying. And they have that love which creates this sense of happiness and joy based on the success or failure. Parents are like that. If their children do well, they're so happy. Nothing can make them happier than their children doing something of value, and nothing can make them more sad than the suffering of one of their children. Nothing they do to them, nothing they do themselves can make them more happy. Nothing can cause them more misery than that. And that is existing in the spiritual realm to such an extent. There's in that same book, Vyāpya Kushmanjali, the first verse, I think Rati Manjari is questioning Rupa Manjari. Your husband is not home, but you have a red mark on your face. And the understanding from that is, even though the Manjaris, they have no direct contact with Krishna, they're tad bhava ichamayi. They're full of a desire for tad bhava, the bhava of another. Their desire, their happiness, their life, tad bhava ichamayi. They're full of this desire for their bhava it's another. Their happiness is Radha's connection with Krishna. And we see that again in the love in the world, how we can get so much pride from someone whom we have relationship with is happy, and how much misery can get from someone that we have love for is suffering. We feel it. In the spiritual world, it even comes out physically, not just mentally. So where's the lipstick coming from, or the mark, whatever it is, the mark on his face? Where's it coming from? From tad bhava ichamayi. Feeling it so intensely. Radha's happiness is my happiness, to the extent of physically. So you can imagine when Krishna is there on the ground, wailing away and crying. You can imagine what the residents of Vrindavan feel. So they start to cry. And everyone is coming within the palace compound. And they begin to cry, and it's such a loud wailing that everybody else around. This is messages used to get around in the 60s when there was protest, there was no internet. They would hand out flyers. and one person would tell another, who would tell another, who would tell another, who would tell another. This is called the telephone thing. It would go very, very quickly, and same thing in a village. You tell one person there's a mahotpāta, you tell two people, and they tell, and everybody's invited, and sure enough, everybody comes. So soon, the whole village, the whole city of Dwarka was congregated outside in a vigil, and some coming in. What is happening to Krishna? Oh my Krishna, Krishna. The ultimate reality, Krishna, the center of the universe, Krishna. The drawing power of affection, that feeling. It's such a beautiful philosophy, that feeling of connection with God. It's a visceral energy. And that energy is happiness. It doesn't have to be sambhog itthaṁ, which is another type of gopi where itthaṁ, their thing is sambhog, is union with Krishna. But it's not a physical, it's not an external thing. It's this consciousness of love. It's this consciousness of love. It's this energy of love. And the center of it is the most attractive, called Krishna. So all the residents are coming. And then they start to wail and cry. And then by the transcendental system, make this a little bit easier. And then by the transcendental system, whichever place I go, I have to make my makeshift. And then by the transcendental system, where the super soul connects hearts, soon the creator, the secondary creator of the universe, Lord Brahma, finds out. And not only that, there were terrible omens. And omens is part of the science of astrology. It's part of the science of astrology that there are different indications that God of the future. I told people about my left and right eyes twitching. And it's auspicious with the right eye, and it's just been constantly twitching, which is kind of exciting for me. But so many good things are happening, but I'm trying to be equal in happiness and distress. It's harder to be equal in happiness than distress, because there's a motive to extract yourself. But in happiness, there's not. But if it's not neutralized, then you'll experience the duality of that, which is loss of the object of your happiness. But anyway, there's a system of omens. So I mentioned. So, and the example I given before is the automobile. When you don't have your seatbelt on, there's something that rings. So it's like that in the universe. And so they're seeing all these bad omens, just like in Vrindavan, when Krishna was in the coil of the serpent. The left eye of the men and the right eye of the women started to blink, inauspiciousness. Meteors started to come from the sky. And lightning without rain, another one. So we can imagine what their sentiment is. Tatanya bodhaka bhavat swayam agach chatur mukha vritoveda paranadye parivarer surayapi Because four-headed Brahma could find no one else to explain the cause of these omens, he came to see for himself, accompanied by the Vedas, the Puranas, his personal attendants, and various demigods. Purport: Brahma is indeed a learned person. In fact, his chosen advisors are the Vedas and the Puranas who stay in his court, always ready to offer counsel. Tammapurva dashabhajam preshta pranayakataram nigudha nija mahatmya bhara prakotanotatam maya narayanam brahma pitaram gurum atmana sachatmakaram alokya twastadayo radutshanam. Brahma found his own father and spiritual master, the original Narayan, in an unprecedented state, distressed by the love for his beloved devotees. So the devotees are feeling sadness for Krishna, are seeing Krishna's condition, and they're feeling sad, and Krishna is feeling the situation of his devotees, and he is apurvam. Dasha is a stage or condition. Apurvam. Purva means before. Apurvam, never before. It's one of the states of ecstasy, is apurvam. When Radha sees Krishna, Krishna sees Radha, it's never before. It always becomes more beautiful. I've never before seen this. But his condition, Krishna's condition, never before seen, that he's so overwhelmed with emotion. And why? Because pranaya, out of love, he is kataram, distressed by love for his own beloved devotees, seeing the Lord thus boldly revealing his true greatness, normally hidden. Brahma was astonished. For a moment, he too lost his gravity and began to cry. So this is really a very important point, that a person's true greatness is his love. And then showing your love reveals your greatness. Seeing another person's love reveals his greatness. Just like there's that picture of Prabhupada when Jamuna's sister Janaki took his passport and said, "We're not letting you to leave." And Prabhupada smiled so broadly. So that's true greatness, Prabhupada's spontaneous love, even for his disciples. So Brahma, saw this, and it was so overpowering. His inner self of the person he loves more than anybody else as his guru and master. And now he sees his true greatness, his love for the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, and which is normally hidden because in a person who is cultured, he knows which parts of himself to reveal to facilitate the love of another. Just like when I once invited Narayan Maharaj to Prabhupada's first disappearance festival, and he was reluctant, he was very humble and shy. What would I say? What would I say? And then I said, well, maybe you could say what you saw in Prabhupada then, what he was now. And then he thought, and he mentioned, well, Prabhupada's boldness. I saw Prabhupada's boldness even then, and I mentioned this before. Prabhupada wrote a very heavy letter chastising the president of India for not, promoting Krishna consciousness to the degree that he should. And then he described Prabhupada's ability to relate according to the person. If he's younger, then Prabhupada showed his mercy. If he was older, Prabhupada showed his respect. If he's friendly, Prabhupada showed his showed his friendship. Different aspects, and why we glorify Krishna at the beginning of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is specifically this reason, because what Krishna means is the true greatness of God, Akila Rasamrita Murti, the full embodiment, Akila Rasamrita, of all the nectar of relationships. So now Lord Brahma sees this, how Krishna's heart for his devotees is seen, because he's so overwhelmed. And later we'll see, when Lord Brahma takes Krishna to the New Vrindavan nearby, off the coast of the Arabian Sea, and to revive him of his absolute separation from the residents of Vrindavan. And they trick Krishna. This will come out with because it's all wax figures, but Krishna's in such a state that when he sees them, he responds. And the queens of Dwarka, they didn't become envious. They saw the true greatness. They saw the true greatness of, there we go. He saw the true greatness of their husband, which is the full manifestation of their husband, the full manifestation of his love in Vrindavan. So Brahma sees this. He sees Krishna's heart because he never saw it before like this. And for a moment, he too began to cry and lost his gravity. He lost his sobriety. Purport: Brahma is not just the main engineer of universal creation, but also an intimate loving servant of the Supreme Lord. And that Supreme Lord himself is not just the ultimate origin of creation, but also the greatest loving servant of his devotees. Krishna's highest glories are not to be found in his pastime of creating the material world so that rebellious souls may indulge their perverted intentions. Earlier in Krishna's pastimes, Brahma had visited Vrajabhumi and discovered Krishna's true glories in the ecstatic relationship between Krishna and his pure devotees. Now in Dwarka, Brahma is being granted further realization. He is learning that Krishna's most wonderful qualities are his concern for his devotees and his submission to their control, his love for them. This is not forced submission. This kind of sharanagati is willing submission. You desire to serve so much that you become controlled by the desires of your beloved. Realizing this, Brahma can now fully understand Krishna's identity as the original Supreme Lord, Narayan. Brahma was not ignorant of these matters before, but seeing in such a helpless state his own progenitor, who had taught him the Vedas, shocked Balaram into a deeper realization. When Balaram saw Krishna in the distress, he could not help but cry. samstabhya yatnad atmanam swastyam janayatum prabho apayam chintayam asa prapachanantaram adi. With difficulty, Brahma brought himself under control and started to think how to restore his Lord to normal. Soon an idea came to his heart. Tathaiva bhagavat parshe rudantam vinatasutam uchai prabodhya yatnena sabodhi kritasa vadat. Crying at the Lord's side was Garuda, the son of Vinata. Garuda's attention was hard to get, but after calling him loudly for some time, Brahma succeeded. Brahma then spoke. Sri Brahma said, there is another Sri Vrindavan here between Raivata hill and the sea. And Nanda, Yashoda, and others are present within its replica images with similar herds of cows. That Vrindavan constructed by Vishvakarma appeared like the Vrindavan of Mathura. It appeared just like the Vrindavan of Mathura came here to Dwarka. So now Brahma, the most intelligent person, figures out Krishna's in this catatonic state. The only way we can bring him out is to bring him, for him to see the residents of Vrindavan. So as we can't bring him back there, and there'll be reasons explained before, we'll take him to this new Vrindavan forest, and we'll awaken him. So carefully take Krishna and his brother in their present state and gently carry them there. But only Rohini should go with them, no one else. Because if the others go there, Krishna will realize he's in Dwarka. So the most important thing for prema is service. It's more important than personal, personal associate and dealings. It's service. Because ultimately, it's very, very personal. Guru and Krishna have to be pleased. That's the objective. And that consciousness of selflessness and service connects you so deeply to the absolute truth. Purport: Brahma wants Garuda to carry Krishna and Balaram carefully to Nava Vrindavan, New Vrindavan. Oh. The two brothers should not find out that they are still in Dwarka Dham, and their devotees should not be allowed to spoil the illusion by following them. Rohini, I was going to mention Gadadhar. Gadadhar was Rani in Gaur Leela, but because she's the servant of Krishna and Krishna's desire was to get her mood, she couldn't come in the mood of Srimati Radharani, because then Krishna would be forced to stay in the mood just of Krishna, and that wouldn't serve the Leela. So in the same way, the queens of Dwarka, if they came and Krishna saw them, he would Okay, well. So, I got up early. I don't use an alarm, but I get up very early. And somehow it kind of hit me now. I should have taken that nap, but we'll go on. Yeah, so Rohini could go because Rohini was in Braj. Balaram can go because he was in Braj. But the queens of Dwarka, they can only hide behind the forest and look at it. Because if they come, then Krishna would have to assume not the mood of Radha, but the mood of Krishna. Purport, Brahma wants to carry Krishna and Balaram carefully to Nava Vrindavan. The two brothers should not find out that they're still in Dwarka Dham, and their devotees should not be able to spoil the illusion by following them. Rohini can come along because she knows how to conduct herself intelligently, and especially because she used to live in Vrajabhumi and will seem in place. The replica of Vrindavan was constructed by Vishvakarma, the architect of the demigods, but to duplicate the Vrajvasis was beyond his skill. He couldn't make copies of unique devotees like Nanda, Yasoda, and other senior cowherd people, Sri Radhika and the other gopis, or Sridham and Krishna's other gopis. But he was able to fashion static images of the Vrajvasis, lifelike enough to even fool Krishna. And the overall impression created, Nava Vrindavan was practically indistinguishable from the original, down to the smallest details of plant and animal life. Just like Bhaktivedanta Goswami, his disciple, has this new project. And there's I think they brought 4,000 tons of cow dung to fertilize the land, but it's a wonderful project. Some of you there have been there with me. And there was one lady there, Anupayani, who had a degree in landscape architecture. And when she came to serve her Guru Maharaj, she had to research all the original plants of Braja, some which don't even grow there now. So there's so many varieties according to the season. And Vishvakarma was to do that. Śrī Parīkṣit uvāca prayatnāt svastatam nityo brahmanasa kageshvara visharadavara prashte mandam nyadata nandanandam nyadatato natahe. Śrī Parīkṣit said, thus Brahma with some effort brought Garuda back to his senses, and that most expert servant Garuda very slowly placed the two lords on his back. Advised by Brahma, everyone else went home. Meanwhile, as Krishna and Balaram were being carried by Garuda, Balaram more or less regained consciousness. Upon arriving at Nava Vrindavan, Garuda and Balaram gently placed Krishna on a bed. The gopis and gopas of Nava Vrindavan stood around him as if they were Krishna's real cowherd men and women. So many of the cowherd boys are dressed up in this play as cowherd boys and gopis. Oh, wait. Upon arriving at Nava, Garuda and Balaram gently placed Krishna on a bed there, and then the gopis and gopis stood around them as if they were real cowherd men and women. So they were just wax statues, but they surrounded Krishna and put them in different pastime poses to kind of energize Balaram. Uddhava came there with Devaki, who dearly loved her son, and also with Rukmini, Satyabhama, and other queens, and Padmavati. They simply shouldn't leave Krishna in such a state. So at Brahma's request, they hid themselves and took up position some distance away, where they could still see Krishna. Okay, I'm going to stop here today somehow. Jamunajaya, you have any points? Yeah, just somehow I'm very tired today, so.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, they're a wonderful class. I actually have many points, but there's one that I really love that you said about how a cultured person knows, let me see exactly how you said it, which parts of themselves to reveal to a person to facilitate the relationship and to facilitate their Krishna-katha. And I really love that a lot, that only someone who's cultured knows what to reveal and what not to say. So I
Right.
really appreciate
And
that.
it's not static, especially in the Hare Krishna movement. There's all kinds of different people coming in. It may be impossible to satisfy everyone until you get on the highest platform of unity,
Yeah.
which is the shared experience of Krishna.
And,
Go ahead.
no, and I think Gail might have a question about it, because when you said about we must even temper our happiness, which I understand, but I'm wondering what's a good way to think about doing that, to not let the happiness part overwhelm us, when we must tolerate the same as distress.
Oh, poor Maharaj.
Oh, okay, Gail. I did fall asleep. Okay.
You want to repeat your question, Jamuna?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you had this. When you said it, I thought Gail might question this. I was just wondering, Raj, when you said about how things are going so well and you're so happy, but you just, you had to temper the happiness just like we temper the distress. So I wondered what are good techniques to do that, because that's something I know I should do, but I tend to get caught up
Well,
in the
first
happy.
of all, the happiness hardly ever comes. We're always in misery and sickness and distress and problems, etc. So enjoy ourselves when it comes. But Henry made a nice point. I spoke about this, 14 years ago. So this is like a rerun.
I'll have to go back and find that one. Thank you, Henry.
Boy, thanks for that, Henry. 14 years ago. My God. Have I been doing this that long? Wow. Okay. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's unusual for me to be tired in the morning, but I definitely only got 5 hours sleep. And I finished my deity worship and I ate breakfast before class, so that was a mistake too. Gail?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yeah, I do have one thing, but in reference to this last point, the devotees, because their primary concern is Krishna's happiness, right? So isn't it that just spontaneously they wouldn't allow their own happiness to get in the way of their service?
Yeah, but their service is Krishna's happiness. But yeah, I mean, there is the story of Daruka and Dwarka, Krishna's servant, fanning him, and restraining his ecstasy so it won't hurt the service. Yeah. of course.
Yeah, right. Okay. You were talking about their separation, the separation of the Brajvasis, and in that context, you mentioned something about lipstick, but it seemed like you didn't finish that thought. Do you remember that? You talked about lipstick.
Tvam rupa manjari sakhi pratita. Yes, Tvam rupa manjari sakhi pratita prabha. There's a verse in the Valapkushmanjali. In fact, by this great program I got, Gail, if you want it, I can give it to you. I have this program. It's just made by a friend of mine that has over 2,000 books. And you can get to them in the snap. So I can get that verse in really just a second if I just acharyas. I look on the acharya section. I look on Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Then I have about 25, 30 books of his.
Wow.
I'm scrolling down, and now I get to, I can't believe they don't have that
particular one.
It's so unusual. But I look at it another way. I will go to the section now which says Vaishnavas of ISKCON. I'm in that section. You can get my books. There's about 25 authors here, 30 authors. I'll go to Shivaram Swami and see. Yep, go to, boom. It's amazing how quick I found that, right? It's such, if you want, Gail, I can get you in. I just have to give the person a name. It's amazing for research. Tvam rupa manjari sakhi pratitapare smin pumsa parasya vadanam nihi pasyasiti bimbardare shatamanagata patrikaya. O friend, Rupa Manjari, in this town of Yavit, you are well known for being so chaste that you would never even look at another man. It is not surprising then that although your husband is away from home, there are fresh bite marks on your bimba fruit lips. Could the mischievous culprit be that best of Paris? So in the commentary it says, Rati Manjari is seeing she has bite lips, but how is that possible? Because the Manjaris never want direct connection with Krishna. So the answer is they have so much love for Srimati Radharani that whatever she experiences, they experience to that degree.
Wow. So it manifests even physically.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't it great how quickly I could find that verse, even I didn't find it one place? It's such an amazing program this person's made.
Yeah, it's a great reference to have,
Yeah, I mean, I even have Ayendra's books, any book in ISKCON, Bhakti True Swami.
Oh, sign me up.
Okay, I will. Gail.
Thank you, Maharaj. Just one last quick comment, when you were mentioning about the fact how, when we lose faith, remember in the beginning you were talking about that? And it reminded me of that article by C.S. Lewis. I know Mahamuni used to talk about this thing.
I quoted that too.
Yeah. But not in this class, though. But anyway.
I was referring to it, actually. But anyway.
Yeah, I was thinking about the fact that he says that, it's not that we ever just decide to leave,
Right. That's exactly the point. He said, it's not that there's some intellectual thing and I leave.
Yeah. He said we drift
Someone
away.
is not, that's great. I wrote about that in one of my Monday morning greetings when they weren't called Monday morning greetings,
Mm,
like
mm.
years ago. It's in my book. It's in my book. Um,
The greetings from Vrindavan, no? Greetings from Vrindavan, maybe, right?
yeah, it is. I wonder if they have that book. I don't think they have that book of mine, but I look on Vaishnavas, and then I go to my name. No, they only have Waves of Devotion.
Oh, okay.
But name a book, boom. It takes a second.
Hmm.
Okay. Anybody else like to say hello? Now that I already took a little nap, I'm up during the class. I dozed off there. How embarrassing. Okay. Anybody else?
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Gumaraj, Tota Gopinath here, just saying hello.
Okay. Haribo.
Haribo.
Lal and Braja. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna
Thank you for
Maharaj.
class.
Thank you for class.
We're gearing up for a great weekend next week.
Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, we got a lot of surprise. I told you we have this one drama coming up,
Huh.
a very interesting drama. And Jai Jagannath and Patrick, I'm asking them to do just 1 hour of a pilot of their proposed podcast of Let's Be Metaphysical.
Nice.
He's coming for lunch today with
Oh,
Pat
Patrick. Uh-huh.
and Ati Sundari and Kelly are coming up.
Great.
And Bobby's been coming and cooking every day. She's great.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah. She won't be here. We're going to do the cooking ourselves, but
Yeah.
she's really expert too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Goodbye, Yvette. Hare Krishna. Anybody else want to say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare
Haribo.
Krishna. Came together. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay.
Sri
Yavat
Radhika
Hare Krishna and Srira, mother and daughter on exact opposite sides of the earth. This is called Maya Sukhaya. Maya Sukhaya is that for every step of advancement, there's a step back. So now we have such modern transportation. So instead of living in the same village with all our families now, but we're in different parts of the world. But
It's really painful, Maharaj.
what's that?
It's very painful.
I know. Of course.
Maharaj, I have sent you an email. I don't know if you have received it or not.
Okay, I have to check my email. I'll do that today. Okay, thank you.
Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Maharaj,
Maharaj.
thank you for class.
Amala. Okay. We'll see you next week.
Yep, next week.
Okay, Haribo.
Very well.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Krishna-katha. Thank you so much for the class. And what can be the approximate dates of your visit to Moscow? Do you know when
I
are you
will
planning?
arrive in Moscow on the 19th of July, and I will leave on August 7th.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.
You live in Moscow?
Now I'm not in Moscow, but I will come.
Where
For sure,
are
I
you?
will come. In the countryside.
Oh, near Moscow you live, though.
Yes, near Moscow, but I will come to Moscow for sure.
Okay, great. Anybody else?
Thank-
Okay, then I'll look at the list of all the nice
Hare
people.
Krishna Maharaj.
Hey, Bhakti Devi, we'll also see you next
Yes,
week.
I'm looking forward to it.
Let's
Thank
hope
you.
that the weather keeps like this.
Yeah. Whatever the weather, I'll be happy to be there.
Glad you said that. Okay. It's going to be great, It's such a great group of devotees that everyone's coming, I mean, so many people are coming. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Amala, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Good to see
Krishna.
you.
Thank you so much.
Shalom. May there be. Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Yudhisthira Das, Hare Krishna Maharaj, my obeisances.
Okay, you just say Haribo.
Hari Hari Bol.
Anybody else? Okay. I'm going to close now. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha